Welcome to ACC Nation. I'm Jim Quist, and that is Will Oginen.
Hey.
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 It's all about ACC football, but first we're going to take a quick look at the top 25 Oopsies. We've only got 3 of them. One of them is an ACC game, so we can get through these pretty quickly. Number 23, Utah over number 3, Oregon. Oh, boy, this was just nasty. 38-7. You guess what, Pac-12? Once again, you shot yourself in the foot.
Whoa.
I mean, that was a horrible game.
Yeah, I really didn't even bother watching it. It was by the time I turned it on, it was like 30. It was like 28-0 at halftime. Like it's not even worth my time. I know Utah's going to blow them out. I think the story of this is Anthony Brown can only take you so far, and yeah, he's surrounded with a ton of talent, but he's kind of capped at his ability. But the fact that he's got Oregon to this close to the playoff shows what the kind of talent and the coach that Mario Cristobal can put around a team. And his name has been floated with the Miami job, with that potentially coming open here either after the end of this season or maybe next season. We'll see. There's still a lot to be decided there, but Utah, they continue to fly under the radar as a team in the Pac-12 that tends to get no love, but are one of the more consistent teams out there.
Tell me something. After this kind of meltdown, would you want Cristobal as your coach?
I mean,
seriously.
To think the only other place he'd want to coach is Miami. I mean, he obviously has a ton of background there. He's from there. His brother's a cop there. Sometimes you just the lure of going back home is sometimes too strong. But at the same time, he's even said this in the preseason that he thinks next year's team would be even better. So this is if he thinks this team next year is going to be better, then you're talking about a playoff team that who knows, could be right there with the likes of Georgia and Alabama for national championship contention in 2022.
Let me tell you something. I would not depart for that.
Yeah, but the thing of it is, and we can get into this deeper another time, but Mario Cristobal alone is not going to fix Miami. And he's obviously he's gonna save on recruiting budget, because he's not going to need to go very far to get the commits. I think he do a real good job of keeping them home, but that alone isn't going to fix all of Miami's problems.
Not by any stretch of the imagination, my dear friend. There's a lot to be worked on there. I say just stick with what you got and go with it for a while. See what happens. At least one more year. Maybe get yourself a new AD and then figure out what it is you want.
Yeah, that's the key in this is who's the new AD, and when are they going to get it?
Well,
you can't draw this out for too long.
No.
If you think you have a shot at Mario Cristobal.
True. So we'll see what happens. Well, this is really not so much an oopsies, but it is kind of, because of the final score. Number 4, Ohio State just sandblasted Michigan State's derriere, 56-7. That's the number 4 team against the number 7 team. Well, somebody had the rankings goofed up there. I would tend to think here.
You think? Well, I think after yesterday, we could narrow down the Heisman Trophy to 2 people: Bryce Young at Alabama and CJ Stroud at Ohio State. I think one of those 2 are going to bring it home. Stroud was awesome in this game. It wasn't just him; that was just a hell of a defensive effort by the Buckeyes to limit that Michigan State offense to just 7 points. They're obviously going to leapfrog Oregon into the playoff consideration. They're going to be probably number 3, I think. You're right, probably when the rankings come out Tuesday. So a huge win, and obviously they have the game next week that probably matters more than anything else at this point.
So when Georgia and Alabama get together, and I'll go with Georgia a whole hog here because I don't know that Alabama has got enough to stop Georgia. In fact, the only team that I see right now that has an opportunity to really go head to head is Ohio State.
I'd agree with that.
We'll see. Um, so this is the scenario, and we talked about this weeks ago. I don't see Alabama staying in that top four. I think they drop out. So that, to me, that puts at the very least ought to put Cincinnati into this mix.
Mhm.
And I'll say it now. I think Notre Dame gets in for the first time as well. I think that Cincinnati and Notre Dame should be in that top four.
Yeah, if Alabama loses the SEC championship game by like double digits or so, they probably drop out because their resume is not looking as good as it once did. Remember, Florida gave them a game earlier in the season. Look what's happened to Florida. They're probably one of the biggest dumpster fires in all of college football now. Texas A&M, you beat them, but A&M is so up and down that win doesn't necessarily hold. That that win looks a lot worse, and they struggled with LSU, who fired their coach and has not looked great this year. So yeah, it's if they, like I said, if they lose to like say if they lose by double digits, and you're probably looking at a playoff of something like Georgia, Ohio State, Cincinnati, and maybe Notre Dame. And you can knock on Notre Dame's schedule all you want. They've just gone out and won. It's not like, it's not their fault that a lot of the teams on their schedule underachieved this year.
No, you really can't. I mean, and Notre Dame has slowly but surely been building their resume, and that win over Georgia Tech was, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
That was signature. That was saying, hello, we're here. Cincinnati did the same thing. So
don't you forget about me.
Oh my God. Okay. He's already been into the turkey. Wild turkey.
I've had the coffee going. So
I see. Is that it? All right. Hey, and one other game in the top 25 oopsies. Like I said, it's an ACC game. We'll get into that in just a minute. But first, congratulations to the new NCAA cross country women's championship. NC State, great job. Great job as always. Superb, bringing home the bacon. I love it. Let's get into these ACC games. And oh man, Thursday. Let's preface this by saying we've all been anxiously awaiting, and I'm going to say anxiously, and people will go, well, that's an inappropriate word. You trying to boot somebody out the door before their time. No, we've been saying it's time forever and a day. This has got to be the end of the road here for David Cutcliffe at Duke. Louisville 62, Duke 22. And it's not just this game that's the nail in the proverbial coffin. No, it's seriously. If we need to hear something soon, and I'm guessing that it's going to be one of these collegiate type of announcements at the end of the season that we've decided that, I'm retiring, whatever. Okay, just do it. Just do it.
Yeah, so when you were talking about end of the road, I was about to belt out some Boys to Men, but decided not to.
Please don't.
But yeah, so yeah, we know. I think I saw a report. I think I can't remember which website. I'm sorry, who I can't attribute it to. That was talking about Cutcliffe inching towards retirement, and I think that's going to be the case. I mean, you got. It's only fair to let him finish out the season if you're going to let him do this. I mean, he's meant so much to that school. Obviously, they had levels of success that hadn't been seen since Steve Spurrier was on the sidelines, some nearly 30 years ago. And Yeah, he's obviously won them an ACC Coastal Division championship, got him into the ACC in the championship game, obviously, and had a lot of success. But obviously, it's just kind of fallen over these last few years. And like I said, it's only fair to let him finish the season out. Now Louisville, let's talk about Louisville and just the beatdown they put on this Duke team. 687 yards of offense. Malik Cunningham had 527 yards of offense on his own, threw for 303 yards, ran for 224 yards, accounted for 7 touchdowns, 5 passing and 2 rushing. Cardinals ran for 384 yards as a team, averaged over 10 yards per carry. Now with that win, Louisville's bowl eligible. We've been saying, this is a team that that were, up and down all year. Offenses really started to get going these last few weeks, and it's led them to this point where they're going to be going bowling. And I wouldn't have said Satterfield might have been on a little bit of a hot seat coming into the year, but I think those talks are gone now. He's definitely cooled it off.
If they lose to Kentucky, it'll be back.
Oh yeah.
So,
but we can get into this we'll get into another time. But yeah, they have a real shot to win that game.
Yeah. Our next game is Clemson, a rebounding Clemson, really taking it to Wake Forest. I think they're finding their niche here. And look, realistically, you can't write that team off. Even at the very end of the season, you cannot write Clemson off because there's just too much talent, both on the field and on the sidelines, and they have a determination. And it was just an eventuality. It was going to come. Now, Wake Forest has a lot of offensive talent, but they have no D at all. I mean, they went off of just overwhelming you on points. Well, they didn't do it soon enough in this game. Clemson got up on them 17-3 really early. So it's hard to come back against somebody who defensively can shut you down. And this is basically what happened. And Clemson was not about to allow Wake Forest to claim a division title on their home turf. So Clemson 48, Wake Forest 27. I'm to be frank with you, Will, I've been very disappointed in Wake Forest the last couple of weeks. And I just have this growing sense of doom about that team.
Yeah, and I think what it is the defense. That it can, a bad defense can only take you so far, and they're not the only team in the ACC where defense has killed them, and we're going to get to the other one a little bit later. But yeah, their defense has not been very good. Even Sam Hartman hadn't been good the past couple of weeks. He was better in this game, but just on the defense, Clemson ran for 333 yards in this game, averaged 6 yards per carry. Kobe Pace, 191 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. Will Shipley, 112 yards and 2 touchdowns. It just feels like Clemson's peaking at the end of the season. And the thing of it is they still have a shot to win the Atlantic. They need a lot of help because they need both Wake Forest and NC State to lose next week, which very well could happen. We're not going to rule it out.
Hey, go ACC.
Yeah, right. Just trash Clemson all year. Next thing you know, they'll be in the championship game. that's how it how it is. But Wake is still in a win and in situation. All they got to do is win next week, and they're in. So like I said, Sam Hartman played better in this game. 27 of 43, 312 yards. First time he was above 50% completion in a few games. So you saw better effort from him. But again, defense, they just couldn't stop that rushing attack, and it cost them big time in this game.
Yeah. Will Shipley. I love to watch this kid play. Just put it simply and distinctly. I'm looking forward to what he's going to bring to the Clemson game in the future, because if he keeps delivering the way he is now, wow.
Yeah, and as I think we've seen that DJ Uyunglele is just not fully developed yet. He's still got a ways to go in his development, but when you got that dude in the backfield, Will Shipley, nice
Funny.
name by the way, but you can take a lot of pressure off of DJ that way, just handing the rock to him.
So tell me something. In your opinion, um, after watching DJ all season and knowing what was anticipated or expected, maybe over expected, has he come along? Is he progressing? Do you think that he's going to shed this year's foibles and come back next year as somebody who is really going to be a contributor and be in sync and in rhythm and really lead that Clemson offense?
Um, it's he's had moments throughout the year where he's looked really good, but even going back to last week against UConn, he was sub 50% completion. To say that this season has been a disappointment is, probably a bit of an understatement because, you're expected to replace, you look at the lineage of Clemson quarterbacks that have come through lately between, guys like Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence, and you're expected to be, on that same level, but because we had that 2-game sample size last weekend or last season against Boston College and Notre Dame, where he looked like all world, but it ended up being just a blip on the radar. And we realized maybe to quote the old Saturday Night Live, he's not ready for prime time. The thing of it is he's also been hampered by injuries at receiver. I think if I read correctly, Will Swinney, Dabo's kid, started at wide receiver yesterday because they're so down on the depth chart with injuries. So it's that hasn't helped either. But if they can get healthy and they're bowl eligible, so this means more practice time for him to try to get comfortable, and he'll be give him another chance next year. It's only fair.
Yeah. And if he makes it to the competition, yeah, great. Justin Ross off to the NFL, and best of luck to you, man. You had a rough ride there for, it was scary when I saw his injury. It was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And the fact that he came back, congratulations.
And it's only fair for him to do that, because I don't think for him there's not much else to prove, especially this season. So good on him. Good luck in the NFL.
Yeah, hope he does well. We'll be watching you on Sunday and Monday and Thursday and
maybe a Saturday here and there.
Yeah, we'll be watching. So good luck. UNC over Wofford 34-14. For those of you expecting a higher score, it's because Sam I Am was out in part. So they didn't have the accelerator all the way down to the floor. A win. A win is a win is a win.
Yeah, SAM was MIA, but it was, I think it was one of those situations where if, it was next week against NC State, he would have played, but no reason to play him here again and, risk further injury against an FCS team that, you're going to beat without him. You got to, take that opportunity to let him rest up his shoulder and get ready for next week. But I see Jacoby Briswell started in this game, 11 to 19, 125 yards. They didn't really throw the ball a lot. Didn't really need to do a whole lot. UNC ran for 305 yards in this game, averaged just under 8 yards per carry. I wanted to highlight Josh Downs again. He's only a sophomore. He had 8 catches, 89 yards in this game, but he has 90 catches and just under 1,200 yards for the season. And Sam Howell gets all the hype around that UNC offense, but the emergence of Josh Downs has, it's been a huge coup for this offense. And, you see he's only a sophomore, so he's got at least another year left of eligibility, and he's going to be a big time player for the Heels next season.
Look forward to that. Florida State pulling out I guess a big win, especially since it was on Boston College's home turf, 26-23. On paper, this was a really challenging game to pick, because these two teams, in weird ways, are on slightly different paths of coming back. Florida State has slowly been building that way. Boston College losing their starting quarterback and then getting him back and kind of getting back into that rhythm has become once again a threat. And so you just sort of figured that this was going to be one of those really close games. And it turned out to be just that, an exciting finish for Knowles fans, not so much for Eagles fans who are sitting there in the freezing temperatures of Chestnut Hill and wondering what happened.
What happened? What happened? Oh man. I even said this to you and our pal Chris yesterday in our thread. Like Mike Norvell won't win ACC Coach of the Year, but he deserves a lot of love for the way he's turned around Florida State this year. They were 0-4. Remember, they lost to Jacksonville State, and now they're one win away from bowl eligibility against their in-state rival and the biggest dumpster fire in all of college football. And you think they have a real good shot to win that game. It's really something, how he's turned it around. And which really helped Jordan Travis. He had another strong game through the year, 20 of 34, 251 yards, 3 touchdowns. They didn't run the ball very well in this game. BC did a pretty good job controlling them on the ground, but he's 0-4 to 5-6. Beating Miami obviously last week, going on the road to Chestnut Hill in an easy letdown situation and coming away with a win there. That's huge. And Florida State's got they got one more big game left. They did a really good job of stifling the Boston College offense. They only had 318 total yards in this game. Phil Jacoby was 10 of 24 passing. So it's one more week, and Boston College can play the role of spoiler next week, and we'll get into that game another time. But yeah, that's going to be a big game next week.
This next game, I probably have been maybe a little too lenient on Jeff Collins, but I'll tell you what, this game did not help him one bit. It helped Notre Dame immensely. And this was a show game, because if you lay a whoop down on Georgia Tech prior to them meeting Georgia, you're sending a statement. And that's what Notre Dame did with a 55-0 shellacking of Georgia Tech. I mean, that was just ugly.
The first line in my notes on this game just says embarrassing.
Very. Man, I don't even know how to categorize a game like this. In a normal season, you would kind of expect that kind of score. But this has been the furthest thing away from a normal season for Notre Dame and Georgia Tech, for that matter. It's, there have been competitive games, close games all along, all season for both teams. Mm-hmm. And then to have this.
Yeah, it's something, because, Notre Dame earlier in the year, they got by a lot of teams close. They handled Wisconsin, and that at the time that didn't look like a great win, but Wisconsin has been on a roll of late. That win looks a lot better now. Some of the Carolina win looks better now. Obviously the Virginia win doesn't, it's kind of stayed the same, I would say, but there's some other ones that look better, but they say it's not their fault that team, like say Carolina's underachieved to expectations, Georgia Tech's underachieved to expectations, Wisconsin at the time underachieved to expectations, but they can't help that. They're just going out in the field and winning. And when you outgain your opponent, in this case with Georgia Tech, they outgained them 514 to 224. Pretty sad effort. Notre Dame, they averaged 16.8 yards per completion. So every time they completed a pass, it went for almost 17 yards, and they averaged just under 9 yards per play. That is a pretty pathetic pass defense effort by Georgia Tech. And we said Jeff Collins probably has the hottest seat going into 2022. He the first 3 years of his coaching career at Georgia Tech, he's not won more than 3 games, and yeah, they still have one more next week, but look who they got to play. 55-0 looks to be a similar score next week, based off of this effort.
You think you're the bearer of bad news, my man.
I'm afraid I have some bad news.
You have some horrible news. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how Georgia does it against Georgia Tech, and what that final score ends up being. And Georgia they have got to return the favor. The message was sent from Notre Dame to Georgia. We're coming.
Mm-hmm.
So Georgia has got to do the same thing or worse, Georgia Tech. So
yeah, I think your Georgia Tech's goal for next week is to actually score points.
Yeah.
Might be a tough one though, with the defense that's on the other side of the field.
Just kick field goals all day. So
yeah.
that will do the trick.
Yeah, I'm not sure you can trust Georgia Tech special teams to do that either.
No. Oh gosh. All right. Pitt has won the Coastal title with a 48-38 win over Virginia. I had this inkling that Armstrong was coming back. There was just so many signs out there that said Armstrong was going to be in this game. And, we talked about that. I think you reflected the same thing. I mean, you hold him out for a week and get him healthy and get him back in this game. And, of course, nobody was really talking about it from the Virginia staff, but that's sort of an indication that, yeah, we're going to do it. A very competitive game. Armstrong won the quarterback to quarterback head-to-head matchup against Pickett. Brennan Armstrong is just a hell of a quarterback. But Kenny Pickett's no slouch either. But Armstrong is just not enough to carry Virginia to a win here. It's all about the lack of defense
and special teams.
And special teams, and maybe
Mistakes.
one or two other things there too. So 48-38, the final score. Will, your thoughts on this game?
Well, like you said, Brennan Armstrong came back, looked like his usual self, 36 of 49, 487 yards and 3 touchdowns. Keaton Thompson, 11 catches, 126 yards. Dontavian Wicks, 10 catches, 133 yards. That really cut down on his yards per catch average. Woo. But, obviously Wicks is over 1,000 yards on the season. I think Thompson needs like a little over 100 yards in the final 2 games, counting the bowl game, if he plays to get 1,000 yards receiving on the season. You say Kenny Pickett, 340 yards, 4 touchdowns. Jordan Addison, 14 catches, 202 yards, 4 touchdowns. I will argue Virginia lost this game more than Pitt won the game, because that pathetic defensive effort and the special teams, when they kick the field goal, but Virginia jumps off sides, gives Pitt a first down, and they end up scoring. That was a bad, effort. Or there was a 4th and 1 where Pitt went for it. The pass was incomplete, wouldn't have been caught, but there was a pass interference call on Virginia. It was just an absolute horrendous mistake. Just the inability of this defense has really overshadowed what has been a special season by Brennan Armstrong. I mean, he's setting records left and right that haven't been done since the likes of Matt Schaub nearly 20 years ago. And you keep in mind, he missed the game and he's still having all these records. It's a damn shame, because he's the best quarterback in the ACC. I will not hear otherwise. What he's doing, it's amazing. He's, considering he's still playing with a rib injury and still did that, I'm impressed. And you're probably going to get another year of him. I think he should come back for one more year. I think he's, by technicality, like a redshirt sophomore, but I think he can, come back and prove he can do it again, and maybe go pro after 22. But I mean, congrats to Pitt. They they did what they needed to do in this game to earn it. But um, my argument is Virginia lost this game more than Pitt won it. I laid out all my reasons. The mistakes on defense and the mistakes on special teams that gave Pitt extra first downs and stuff like that. That was the difference in this game more than anything. You can look at the stats and they're pretty even all the way down. Total yards were pretty even. Time of possession was even. The yards per play was even. A lot of the statistical stuff shows this was a pretty even ball game. But the mistakes and the times of them by Virginia are the difference in this game.
No argument for me there, man, my man. I tell you, I just, it was a fun game to watch from the perspective of the way I watch games. Basically, is I'm not rooting for one side or the other. So, I mean, for me, as a fan of sports, it was a great game. That final snafu that allowed Pitt to get that touchdown, you knew at that moment. I mean, the time was running out, et cetera. But yeah, all those things that you mentioned. It'd be nice to see Armstrong come back, play another season, and maybe Bronco can find a defense. Because if they, as you've said before, and I don't know whether this is something that I think you tweeted this about if Virginia had even a mediocre defense.
Yeah, even if they just had a mediocre defense, they're playing for the ACC championship next week, because they probably if they had a mediocre defense, they beat Pitt yesterday, and they probably have at least one or more win on their schedule. They probably don't nearly choke away leads to Miami and Louisville, and have to settle for missed field goals in those games. So yeah, I mean, they were going to lose to Wake no matter what. They were probably going to lose to UNC, maybe, but I'll just chalk that up as a probable L2. And they're probably like right now 8-3 at this point with a competent defense, and they're 6-5, and it's like, they're probably going to be favored next week, but look at their track record against Tech the last 2 decades.
Yeah. All right. Some game. Congratulations to Pitt for winning the Coastal title. Been an interesting season for you guys as well. And we are waiting to see who you'll be fighting against here. It could end up being Clemson. NC State with a big win, score-wise, 41-17 over Syracuse. NC State is NC State. Syracuse is Syracuse. What more can we say about this game?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, NC State wasn't really threatened much in this game. Yeah, they jumped out 14-0. We're just putting on a defensive clinic, and then Sean Tucker suddenly runs off a 55-yard touchdown run. I'm like, well, so much for that idea. But then Bam Knight just turns around and returns the kickoff 97 yards for a touchdown. And yeah, it was pretty much that. Wolfpack led 28-7 at the half. Devin Leary, another 300-yard game, threw for 2 touchdowns. The NC State defense held Syracuse to 236 total yards. So yeah, that's a strong defensive effort there by the Wolfpack. And say they are still in the hunt for the ACC Atlantic. They play UNC on Friday night, so we'll know their fate heading into Saturday's games, what needs to be done. If they win and Wake loses, then the Wolfpack win the Atlantic.
So our next game here is Miami and Virginia Tech, 38-26, the final score there. The Justin Fuente-Les Hokies put on a pretty good show for the most part, and a little different look at quarterback as well.
Yeah, I would invite everybody, if you missed it, to check out our podcast from earlier in the week with Travis Wells at WBJ in Roanoke. It was that great breakdown of what happened with the Justin Fuente era, why it went wrong, and what to look forward to as we get into this coaching search. But yeah, this game was basically played in a monsoon the entire time. It was just downpouring the entire game for the most part. But still, Tyler Van Dyke threw for 357 yards in this game. I think it was the first time the entire season Virginia Tech had allowed a 300-yard passer, and with the way things are going, they'll probably do it a second straight week next week. Charleston Rambo, 7 catches, 116 yards for the Hurricanes in this game, and he's someone that's really, his game has really stepped up over the past few weeks, and he's been a big part. He's been kind of Van Dyke's go-to guy ever since he's really gotten comfortable in this offense, and he's really stepped up his game. You talked about it. Braxton Burmeister started, led him on a touchdown drive, but all in all, was kind of efficient. And then so interim coach JC Price went to Connor Blumrick and came in and gave him a spark on the ground, ran the ball 20 times for 132 yards. Pretty nice effort on the ground there. But Hokies still need one more win for bowl eligibility. And like I say, they got the Commonwealth Cup game next week, and we'll see what happens there. It's definitely a winnable game.
It should be a fun matchup to watch too. It's going to be at Scott Stadium, so that place ought to be rocking.
Oh yeah.
And if it's not, shame on both crowds for not coming out to that game. It's there's a lot of rivalry between Virginia Tech and Virginia. Some of it's good natured, some of it's not. Going on since the two schools have been on God's green planet. It's just the way it is. But Scott Stadium, good scene for that matchup, and it should be a fun game to watch, and really look forward to that. Just as a quick reminder here, the midweek program won't have a guest, but Will and I are going to be previewing the Turkey games that are coming up. So that will be on the next episode of ACC Nation. So make sure that you watch us either on YouTube, or you listen to us on ACC Nation Radio, or take us with you on your favorite podcast platform. Make sure that you subscribe. And while you're at it, there you go. See, just smartphone it, man. It's so easy. I tell you what, we have 17 different ways. If you want to listen podcast wise, 17 different ways for you to download the podcast. It's ridiculously easy. And anything from getting it through your email to Apple, Google, Amazon. We are across the globe. As a matter of fact, we're on 2 platforms in India, which allow you to download there. And we have people from all over the world, and we want to thank you, by the way, for listening and watching. We enjoy doing this. This is a lot of fun. We get up and do this sports all the time. So good stuff. And just make sure that you subscribe, follow us. And if you have something good to say, please say it. Give us a 5-star rating. We would appreciate it. And we will talk to you in the next episode.
Stay tuned for the next episode.